The alien ship moved through space like a whisper. Its black hull caught no light, made no sound, and left no trace. Commander Juan stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful, too peaceful. 300 years, Juan said to his team. For 300 years, no species has detected our ships. We are the best scouts in the galaxy. Mirai nodded from her station. She was their best fighter, trained in weapons and tactics. The humans will never know we were here. Daiho worked at his computer console. He was young but brilliant with technology. All stealth systems working perfectly, Commander. Sound dampeners at full power. Visual cloak holding steady. Su Jin checked her communication equipment. No human signals detecting us. Their radar is too simple to find our ship. Juan smiled. This would be easy. The Veltari had done this many times before. They would land, study the local military, and report back to the invasion fleet. Then the real ships would come and take over the planet. Humans were just another primitive species that would fall to superior technology. Take us down to the jungle region, Juan ordered. Intelligence says it's empty of human settlements. We'll have time to study them without being seen. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere. It passed through clouds without making a ripple. The stealth technology was perfect. No human radar could track them. No human eyes could see them. They were invisible. The Amazon rainforest stretched out below them like a green carpet. Trees covered everything as far as they could see. It looked wild and untamed, perfect for hiding their ship. Landing zone located, Daiho reported. No human life signs within 50 kilometers. Land us there, Juan said. The ship touched down in a small clearing. Trees surrounded them on all sides. Vines hung down like curtains. The air was thick, with moisture, and the sounds of strange animals. Excellent, Juan said. Deploy the external sensors. I want to know everything about this area before we begin our real mission. The team worked quickly. Their equipment was the best in the galaxy. Sensors that could detect movement from kilometers away. Cameras that could see through walls. Communication devices that could intercept any human signal. Sensors are active, Mirai reported. Nothing moving in our area except small animals. Perfect, Juan said. Now we wait for... A branch snapped somewhere in the forest. Everyone froze. Daiho, Juan whispered. Check the sensors. Nothing on sensors, Commander. Just wind moving through trees. Another sound. This time it was different, like someone stepping on leaves. That's not wind, Mirai said. She grabbed her weapon. Something is out there. Impossible, Juan said. Our cloak is perfect. Nothing can see us. Su Jin checked her equipment again. All stealth systems working. We're completely invisible. The sounds stopped. The forest went quiet except for distant bird calls. False alarm, Juan said after a minute. Just local animals. But he was wrong. 200 meters away, a human crouched behind a large tree. His name was Lee Jae-woo, and he was a soldier in the Korean Special Forces. He was supposed to be alone in this jungle, practicing survival skills, living off the land for 2 weeks with only basic equipment. That was before he saw the ship land. Jae-woo had not seen the ship itself. The alien stealth technology was too good for human eyes. But he had seen other things. Things the aliens did not know they were showing. When the ship came down, it pushed air in all directions. This air moved leaves and branches in a pattern that did not match the wind. Jae-woo saw the pattern and knew something big had landed in the clearing. When the ship touched ground, it heated the earth beneath it. This heat made water vapor rise into the air. Jae-woo could not see the vapor, but he could smell the change in the air. Metal and energy and something that did not belong in a jungle. The ship's engines, even when quiet, made vibrations in the ground. Jae-woo felt these vibrations through his feet. He had trained for years to notice such things. His instructors had taught him that the jungle would tell him everything if he knew how to listen. Now the jungle was telling him that strangers had arrived. Strangers with technology he had never seen before. Jae-woo moved closer to the clearing. He stayed low and moved slowly. His grandfather had taught him to walk in the forest without making noise. His father had taught him to hide from enemies. The army had taught him to fight. He reached the edge of the clearing and stopped. He could see nothing unusual, just trees and grass and flowers. But he knew something was there. The air still smelled wrong. The ground still vibrated slightly. Jae-woo closed his eyes and listened. After a moment, he heard voices. Quiet voices speaking in a language he did not know. The voices came from the center of the clearing where he could see nothing. Invisible. Enemies. Jae-woo had read stories about such things in military reports. Experimental technology. Stealth aircraft that could not be seen. But this was different. This was better than anything humans had built. He opened his eyes and studied the clearing again. This time he did not look for what was there. He looked for what was missing. What should be there but was not. In the center of the clearing there were no insects flying. Birds did not land in that area. Even the smallest animals stayed away from one spot, as if something large was sitting there, something they could sense even if they could not see it. Jae-woo smiled grimly. He had found them. He pulled back from the clearing and began to move in a wide circle. He needed to learn more about these invisible enemies. How many were there? What weapons did they have? What did they want? Most importantly, he needed to stay alive long enough to warn someone. On their ship, the aliens continued their work. They had no idea that a human had already found them. Their sensors showed nothing. Their technology said they were perfectly hidden. "Begin Phase 2, Hwan ordered. I want detailed scans of human settlements. We need to know their military strength before the invasion fleet arrives." None of them knew that the invasion had already been discovered. None of them knew that their perfect stealth technology had failed against the most basic human senses. And none of them knew that Jae-woo was already planning how to destroy them. 3 hours passed before the aliens realized they had a problem. Dae-ho was the first to notice something strange. "Commander," he said, staring at his screen, "our external sensors are picking up movement patterns that don't match local wildlife." Hwan walked over to look. The screen showed dots moving through the jungle around their landing site. The dots moved in circles, getting closer, then farther away. "What kind of animal moves like that?" "No animal," Mireille said. She had been studying the patterns, too. "That's reconnaissance. Someone is watching us." "Impossible," Hwan said. "Our cloak is perfect. Even if someone was out there, they couldn't see us." Soo-jin looked up from her communication station. "Sir, I'm picking up electromagnetic signatures that shouldn't be here. Someone has been scanning us." Hwan felt cold fear in his stomach. "How long?" "At least 2 hours, maybe more." "Why didn't our systems detect the scanning?" "Because it's not active scanning," Soo-jin said. "Someone is just listening, picking up the energy our equipment naturally gives off. It's very clever." Hwan looked at the screen again. The moving dot was still out there, circling their position. Options? We can't let whoever it is escape, Mirai said. If they report our presence, the mission fails. The humans will be ready for the invasion fleet. Agreed. Take Daeho and capture the target. Use stunning weapons only. We need to question them. Mirai nodded and grabbed her equipment. Her weapon could knock out any target without killing them. Her armor could stop bullets and energy beams. Her helmet had sensors that could track movement and heat. This will be quick, she said. She was wrong. Mirai and Daeho left the ship and moved into the jungle. Their sensors immediately picked up the target's location. He was moving north, about 300 meters away. Got him, Daeho whispered into his communicator. Moving to intercept. They ran through the trees, using their advanced equipment to track their target. Their sensors showed exactly where he was going. Their computers predicted his path. It should have been easy. But when they reached the predicted location, nobody was there. Target has moved, Daeho said, checking his sensors again. Now he's... Wait, he's behind us. They turned around. Nothing. Sensors show he's 50 meters south, Mirai said. They moved south. Still nothing. For the next hour, they chased shadows through the jungle. Their target appeared on sensors, but when they reached his location, he was gone. It was like chasing smoke. This is impossible, Daeho said. He was breathing hard and covered in sweat. Our equipment is perfect. How can one human outrun our technology? Maybe our equipment is malfunctioning, Mirai said. But she knew that was not true. Their technology never failed. On the ship, Huan and Su-Jin watched the chase on their screens. 2 dots representing their team members moved frantically through the jungle, while a 3rd dot seemed to dance around them. The human is playing with them, Su-Jin said. What do you mean? Look at the movement pattern. He's not trying to escape. He's leading them in circles. He wants them to follow him. Why would he do that? Before Su-Jin could answer, Mirai's voice came through the communicator. Commander, we've lost the target completely. Sensors show nothing. How is that possible? I don't know. 1 second he was there, the next second, gone. What Mirai did not know was that Jae-woo had never left the area. He was lying flat under a pile of leaves and mud only 20 meters away, watching them through a gap in the vegetation. He had learned about their sensors by letting them track him. Every time they found his location, he noted how they moved and how fast they responded. Now he understood their technology well enough to avoid it. Their sensors looked for body heat, but mud and leaves could hide that. Their sensors looked for movement, but he could stay perfectly still. Their sensors looked for metal, but he carried only organic materials. Most importantly, he had realized something the aliens did not know about themselves. Their advanced sensors were too sensitive. They picked up so many signals that the aliens missed the important ones. They could detect a mouse moving through grass, but they could not tell the difference between a mouse and a human who knew how to move like a mouse. Jae-woo watched the 2 aliens search the area around him. They walked within arm's reach without knowing he was there. Their equipment was impressive, but they had forgotten the most basic rule of hunting. Technology was only as good as the person using it, and these aliens had never learned to hunt without technology. After 20 minutes, the aliens gave up and returned to their ship. Jae-woo waited another hour before moving. Then he began his real work. He had spent the day learning about his enemies. Now it was time to start fighting them. The first thing he did was set traps. The aliens had landed in a small clearing, but they had to use the jungle paths to move around their ship. Jae-woo found these paths and began preparing surprises. He dug small holes and covered them with thin branches and leaves, not deep enough to seriously hurt someone, but deep enough to slow them down and make noise when they fell. He strung thin vines across paths at ankle height, invisible in the dark, but strong enough to trip someone running. He prepared sharp sticks and hid them pointing toward the paths. Not poisoned, he was a soldier, not a murderer, but sharp enough to puncture alien armor if they fell the wrong way. Most importantly, he prepared escape routes, ways to move quickly through the jungle that the aliens could not follow, paths only a human could use. As night fell, Jae-woo moved closer to the alien ship. He still could not see it, but he could hear the voices inside. He could smell the strange metal. He could feel the vibrations in the ground. He found a tall tree near the clearing and climbed it silently. From the top, he could look down at the area where the ship was hidden. He still could not see the ship itself, but he could see how the grass was pressed down where it landed. He could see where the aliens had walked. Most importantly, he could see their patterns, how they moved around their ship, where they placed guards, how often they checked their equipment. They were being careful, but they were being careful in the wrong way. They were watching for human technology, human weapons, human vehicles. They were not watching for one human with nothing but knowledge and patience. Jae-woo climbed down from the tree and began to move closer to the ship. It was time to let the aliens know that their perfect stealth technology had failed. It was time to show them what it felt like to be hunted. On the ship, Hwan stared at his monitors and tried to understand what had happened. How had one human found them so easily? How had he escaped from their best soldiers? "Sir," Soo-jin said quietly, "I think we need to consider the possibility that we've made a serious mistake." What kind of mistake? We assumed that stealth technology would work on humans the same way it works on other species. But what if we were wrong? What if humans have abilities we don't understand? Hwan did not want to think about that possibility. The Veltari were the greatest scouts in the galaxy because their technology was perfect. If their technology could fail against primitive humans, then everything they believed about themselves was wrong. "Deploy more sensors," he ordered. "Double the watch schedule. This is just one human. We can handle one human." But deep in his mind, Hwan was beginning to worry that this one human might be more dangerous than an entire army. The attack came at dawn. Daeho was the first to leave the ship, checking the external sensors as he did every morning. He followed the same path he had used for 3 days, walking the same route around their hidden vessel. He never saw the hole. One step he was walking on solid ground. The next step he was falling through a thin layer of sticks and leaves into a pit 2 meters deep. Sharp bamboo stakes waited at the bottom, pointing upward like spears. His armor saved his life. The stakes could not pierce the advanced material, but they hit hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. He lay at the bottom of the pit, gasping and staring up at the circle of sky above him. "Help!" he called weakly. "I'm trapped." Mireille reached him first, looking down into the pit with disbelief. "How did you not see this?" "It wasn't here yesterday," Daeho said. "I checked this path myself. There was no hole." "Someone dug this during the night," Mireille said. She threw down a rope and pulled Daeho out of the pit. While we were sleeping, that human was working. Hwan arrived and stared into the hole. The bamboo stakes were cut from local plants and sharpened by hand. Primitive tools, but they would have killed Daeho if not for his armor. "How did he know this was your path?" Hwan asked. I used the same route every day," Daeho admitted. "It was the easiest way to reach the sensor array." He's been watching us, Mirai said, learning our habits. This isn't random. This is planned. Juan felt something cold in his stomach. The Veltari military had never taught them about enemies who fought without technology. All their training was about superior firepower and advanced equipment. They had no experience with primitive warfare. "Return to the ship," Juan ordered. "We're leaving this planet," but when they tried to contact their ship, nothing happened. "Sujin," Juan called into his communicator. "Respond." Silence. They ran back to the clearing where their ship was hidden. Sujin was there, standing next to her communication equipment, with a confused expression. "I can't reach the orbital command ship," she said. "All our long-range communications are being blocked." "Blocked how?" Juan demanded. "I don't know. The equipment is working perfectly, but something is stopping our signals from reaching space." Deho checked his computer. "Sir, someone has been accessing our communication systems. They've learned our frequencies and are broadcasting interference on the same wavelengths." "That's impossible," Juan said. "Our encryption is unbreakable. No primitive species has ever—" "He's not breaking our encryption," Sujin interrupted. "He's not reading our messages. He's just stopping them from being sent. Like jamming a radio station." Juan stared at her. "Using our own equipment? Using our own signals against us. He's taking the energy from our communications and broadcasting it back as noise. It's simple but effective." "How did he learn to do that?" "By listening," Deho said quietly. "He's been studying our equipment for days, learning how it works." Mirai grabbed her weapon. "Then we hunt him down and kill him." "With what?" Juan asked. "Our sensors can't find him. Our tracking equipment fails every time we get close. How do we fight an enemy we can't locate?" As if to answer his question, something moved in the trees above them. They all looked up, weapons ready. Nothing was there, but leaves were falling where something had passed. "There!" Mirai shouted, pointing her weapon at the trees. She fired a stunning blast into the canopy. The energy beam cut through branches and leaves but hit nothing important. More movement, this time on the other side of the clearing. Deho spun around and fired. Again, nothing. "He's playing with us," Sujin whispered. They stood back to back, weapons pointing in all directions, waiting for an attack that never came. After 10 minutes, the jungle was quiet again. "This is psychological warfare," Mirai said. "He's trying to make us afraid." "It's working," Deho admitted. That night, they took turns keeping watch. 2 people awake at all times, sensors running constantly, weapons ready. It did not help. Around midnight, Sujin heard something moving near the ship. She woke Mirai and they investigated together. Their sensors showed nothing, but they could hear soft sounds in the darkness. "Footsteps," Mirai whispered. They followed the sounds, moving carefully through the jungle. Their night vision equipment let them see clearly in the darkness. Their motion sensors tracked every moving leaf, but they found nothing except a small pile of stones arranged in a circle. "What is this?" Sujin asked. "I don't know." They found 3 more stone circles around their ship. Each one was placed exactly where their sensors had the best coverage, as if someone wanted them to find the circles. "He's marking territory," Mirai realized, "showing us that he can go anywhere he wants, that nowhere is safe." When they returned to the ship, they found Juan awake and staring at his computer screen. "What is it?" Mirai asked. "I've been reading about human military history," Juan said. "Did you know that humans have been fighting wars for their entire existence? Not just big wars between nations, small wars, guerrilla wars, one person against many. So? They've learned things we never needed to learn. how to fight without technology, how to use the environment as a weapon, how to defeat superior forces through patience and knowledge. Sujin sat down heavily. You're saying we can't win. I'm saying we're fighting the wrong kind of war, Huan said. We came here expecting to face human technology. Instead, we're facing something much older and more dangerous. What's that? Human evolution. On his computer screen was a file about human special forces training. Soldiers who could survive in any environment, who could fight with nothing but natural materials, who were trained to think like predators. This human Jay-Woo, Huan said. He's not just a soldier. He's what humans create when they need someone who can win impossible fights. Then what do we do? Before Huan could answer, they heard a new sound. Music. Someone was playing a flute in the jungle. The melody was sad and beautiful, floating through the trees like smoke. Where is that coming from? Mirai asked. They checked their sensors. The music seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It echoed off trees and rocks, making it impossible to locate the source. He's trying to drive us crazy, Daeho said, but Huan knew better. The music was not meant to frighten them. It was meant to send a message. The message was simple. I am here. I am watching, and you cannot find me. For the first time since landing on Earth, Commander Huan began to understand that they were not the hunters in this jungle. They were the prey. And somewhere in the darkness, Lee Jae-woo continued to play his flute. Letting the aliens know that their time was running out. The music stopped suddenly, leaving only silence. In that silence, Huan made a decision that would change everything. Pack the essential equipment, he told his team. We're abandoning the ship. Sir? He knows where we are. He studied our defenses. This ship is not protection anymore. It's a trap. But as they gathered their equipment, none of them noticed the small device that Jae-woo had attached to their communication array. A device that would let him hear every word they said, no matter where they went. The hunt was about to begin in earnest. The aliens learned what it meant to be truly lost. They had abandoned their ship and were now moving through the jungle with only the equipment they could carry. Their advanced technology, designed for space and sterile environments, began failing in the humid heat of the Amazon. The scanning array is down, Daeho reported, hitting his equipment with frustration. Moisture has gotten into the circuits. The weapons are overheating, Mirai added. The cooling systems can't handle this. Environment? Huan wiped sweat from his face. Even their environmental suits were struggling. The Veltari had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like Earth's jungle. How much farther to the backup landing site? He asked. Sujin checked her navigation device. 12 kilometers north, but sir, our communication equipment is also failing. Even if we reach the site, we might not be able to call for pickup. We'll worry about that when we get there. What they did not know was that Jae-woo was only 50 meters away, moving parallel to their path. He had been following them since they left their ship, listening to their conversations through the device he had planted. He knew exactly where they were going. The backup landing site was a small clearing near a river. Jae-woo had found it 2 days ago and had been preparing for their arrival. When the aliens finally reached the clearing, they found what looked like a perfect camping spot. Finally, Huan said, set up the emergency beacon. Maybe we can still contact the fleet. They worked quickly to establish their temporary base. Their equipment looked impressive, but Jae-woo could see the problems they did not notice. Their power cells were running low. Their computers were overheating. Their weapons were less accurate than before. Most importantly, they were exhausted. The aliens were not built for jungle warfare. They moved too loudly, got tired too quickly, and trusted their technology too much. That night, Jae-woo began his real attack. The first thing he did was steal their food. The Veltari had brought compact food supplies that would last for weeks, high-energy packages that contained everything they needed to survive. Jae-woo took half of their supplies without them noticing, leaving behind local fruits and plants that looked similar. When the aliens tried to eat their remaining food packages the next morning, they discovered that jungle insects had gotten into them overnight. The packages were ruined. "How is this possible?" Daeho asked, staring at the insects crawling through his breakfast. "These containers are sealed. Something made tiny holes in them," Mirai said, examining the packages. "The holes are too small to see, but big enough for insects to enter." "Our enemy," Hwan said grimly. "He's trying to starve us." They tried to eat the local fruits that had been left behind, but within hours they were all sick. Not dangerously sick, but sick enough to slow them down and make them weak. "He's poisoning us," Soo-jin groaned, holding her stomach. "No," Hwan said. "These plants are not poisonous to humans, but we're not human. Our digestive systems can't handle Earth food." "Then what do we eat?" "Emergency rations. We have enough for 3 days." What they did not know was that Jae-woo had no intention of poisoning them. The plants he had left were safe for humans, but he knew they would make aliens sick. He had learned about alien biology by watching them and listening to their conversations. He was not trying to kill them. He was trying to make them desperate. Desperate enemies made mistakes. The next attack came from the air. Jae-woo had spent days making arrows. Not metal arrows that their sensors could detect, but arrows carved from wood and tipped with sharpened stone. He had made a bow from jungle materials and practiced until he could hit targets from incredible distances. The arrows came from impossible angles. One moment the aliens were walking through the jungle, the next moment an arrow would appear in a tree next to them. Not aimed to kill, but close enough to show that Jae-woo could hit them any time he wanted. "Where is he shooting from?" Mirai demanded, spinning around with her weapon ready. "The arrows are coming from above," Daeho said, looking up at the canopy. "But our sensors show nothing up there." "Then your sensors are wrong. Our sensors don't make mistakes." But the sensors were not wrong. They were just looking for the wrong things. Jae-woo was not hiding in the trees like they expected. He was using a technique his grandfather had taught him, shooting arrows high into the air so they fell down on his targets from above. Ancient warfare against advanced technology, and the ancient warfare was winning. "Sir," Soo-jin said quietly, "I've been monitoring human radio signals." "What kind of signals?" "Military communications. They're using codes I don't recognize, but the traffic has increased dramatically since we landed." "They know we're here?" "I think they've known for days. Maybe weeks." Hwan felt cold fear in his stomach. "How much do they know?" "I'm not sure. But, sir, I picked up something else. Satellite communications from Earth to space. The humans have been tracking our invasion fleet." "That's impossible. Our ships are cloaked. Their radio telescopes can detect the gravity distortions our ships create. They can't see us directly, but they can track our movements by watching how space bends around us." Hwan stared at her. "How long have they been watching?" "Based on the communication patterns? Years. Maybe decades." "Then this whole mission was pointless. They already know we're coming." "Worse than that," Soo-jin said. "They've been preparing." That night, Jae-woo made his most daring move yet. While the aliens slept, he crept into their camp and sat down next to their communication equipment. When Soo-jin woke up for her watch shift, she found him there. a human, sitting calmly in the middle of their camp, working on their computer. "Alert! Alert!" she screamed. The others woke instantly, weapons ready. But Jae-woo did not run. He did not fight. He simply looked up at them and smiled. Then he spoke in perfect Veltari language. "Hello," he said. "I think it's time we talked." The aliens stared at him in shock. He was smaller than they expected, wearing simple jungle clothes and carrying only basic equipment. But his eyes held a confidence that terrified them. "How do you speak our language?" Hwan demanded. "I've been listening to your conversations for days," Jae-woo said calmly. "Your language is not that difficult to learn." "What do you want?" "To give you a message." Jae-woo stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Your invasion fleet is walking into a trap. Earth has been preparing for your arrival since we first detected your scout ships 3 years ago. Impossible. Your stealth technology is impressive, but it's not perfect. We've learned to track you by watching gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic signatures, and atmospheric disturbances. We know how many ships you have, where they're coming from, and when they'll arrive." Mirai pointed her weapon at him. "You're lying." "Am I?" Jae-woo asked. "Then explain how one human with no technology has been defeating your advanced equipment for a week." None of them had an answer for that. "We're not the primitive species you think we are," Jae-woo continued. "We've been fighting wars since before your civilization learned to build tools. We've perfected the art of warfare while you've perfected the art of technology." "What's your point?" "My point is that you have a choice. You can return to your fleet and warn them that Earth is ready. Or you can stay here and learn what humans do to invaders." Hwan looked around at his exhausted, sick, frightened team. Then he looked back at the human who had outfought them using nothing but knowledge and patience. "What guarantee do we have that you'll let us leave?" Jae-woo smiled. "You don't. But you also don't have any other choice." For the first time since landing on Earth, Commander Hwan realized that the humans had already won. The only question now was whether any of his people would survive to tell the story. Jae-woo sat down on a fallen log and looked at the 4 aliens who had spent a week trying to capture him. They stood around him with weapons ready, but he seemed completely relaxed. "Put your weapons down," he said gently. "I'm not here to fight you anymore." "Why should we trust you?" Mirai demanded. "Because if I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead." The truth of that statement hit them like a physical blow. This human had been hunting them for days. He had trapped them, poisoned them, and driven them to exhaustion. If he had wanted them dead, he could have done it easily. "What do you want from us?" Hwan asked. "I want you to understand something," Jae-woo said. "This whole week, you've been thinking about this wrong. You believe you were fighting one human with primitive weapons. But that's not what happened." "Then what did happen?" "You were fighting the entire human species." Jae-woo reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. "This communicator has been sending updates to my military command every few hours. Everything you've said, everything you've done, every piece of technology you've used. It's all been recorded and analyzed." Dae-ho stared at the device. "You've been spying on us. We've been learning from you. Do you know how many humans are studying the data I've collected? Thousands. Engineers are figuring out how your technology works. Tacticians are learning your weaknesses. Scientists are developing countermeasures. 1 week of observation can't tell you that much." "You're right," Jae-woo said. 1 week isn't enough. That's why we've been watching your species for 3 years. The aliens looked at each other in growing horror. Every probe you sent to Earth was detected, Jae-woo continued. Every scout ship was tracked. We let you think you were invisible, while we studied everything about you. Your technology, your tactics, your psychology. That's impossible, Soo-jin whispered. Is it? You've been using the same stealth technology for 300 years. You've become dependent on it. You forgot that stealth is only useful if nobody knows how to look for you. Jae-woo stood up and walked to their communication equipment. May I? Before anyone could stop him, he activated their emergency beacon. The device came to life, sending signals toward space. What are you doing? Hwan shouted. Calling your fleet, Jae-woo said calmly. They should know what's waiting for them. The beacon connected to the Veltari command ship in orbit around Earth's moon. A voice came through the speaker, speaking in the alien language. Scout Team 7, report status. Hwan looked at Jae-woo, who nodded encouragingly. Command, this is Commander Hwan, he said slowly. Mission has encountered complications. Explain. The humans detected our landing. They have been studying us for days. Their technology is more advanced than we thought. Impossible. Our intelligence shows they are a primitive species. Jae-woo leaned toward the communicator. Command, he said in perfect Veltari. This is Colonel Lee Jae-woo of the Earth Defense Forces. I have a message for your invasion fleet. Silence. From the other end. How did a human access our communications? The voice finally asked. We've been monitoring your transmissions for years, Jae-woo said. We learned your language, your codes, and your technology. We know you have 147 ships approaching Earth. We know you plan to establish control through superior firepower. What is your point, human? My point is that your plan will fail. Jae-woo activated his own communicator and spoke in English. Control, this is Jungle Ghost. Initiate demonstration protocol. Through the Veltari communicator, alarms suddenly began sounding on the command ship. Sir, a voice shouted, human vessels are rising from the planet's surface. How many ships? Hundreds. They were hidden on the dark side of the planet. Target them with our weapons. Sir, our weapons are not responding. Something is interfering. With our targeting systems. Jae-woo smiled at the shocked aliens around him. While you were perfecting stealth technology, we were perfecting electronic warfare. Your weapons rely on computer targeting. Our weapons don't. Through the communicator, they could hear the chaos on the Veltari command ship. Systems failing, weapons offline, communications jammed. This is impossible, Hwan whispered. No, Jae-woo said. This is what happens when a species that has been fighting wars for 50,000 years decides to defend itself. He spoke into the communicator again. Veltari Command, you have two choices. Retreat now, or discover what humans do to invaders. You cannot defeat our entire fleet with a few hundred ships. Watch us. What the Veltari could not see was that the human ships were unlike anything they had ever faced. No sleek hulls or energy weapons. These ships looked crude and primitive, but they were designed by engineers who had studied every piece of Veltari technology. The human ships used kinetic weapons, simple metal projectiles fired at incredible speeds. No computers to jam, no energy signatures to track, just mass and velocity, the oldest weapons in the universe. And they worked. Sir, the voice on the communicator was panicking now. The human projectiles are penetrating our shields. Our defensive systems can't stop them. Use evasive maneuvers. We're trying, but the humans are predicting our movements. It's like they know what we're going to do before we do it. Jae-woo looked at Hwan. We've been studying your tactics for 3 years. We know how you think, how you fight, how you react under pressure. You're fighting an enemy that knows you better than you know yourselves. Sir, the voice was desperate now. We're losing ships. The humans are using some kind of coordinated attack pattern we've never seen before. What kind of pattern? They're attacking in groups, but each group uses different tactics. It's like fighting a dozen different species at once. That's because you are, Jae-woo said. Every human military on Earth contributed to this defense. Korean tactics, American technology, Russian weapons, Chinese coordination, Japanese precision. You're not fighting one species. You're fighting the combined military knowledge of an entire planet. The sounds of battle continued through the communicator. Explosions, alarms, shouted orders in the alien language. Sir, the flagship is taking heavy damage. Fall back. All ships fall back. We can't. The humans have surrounded us. Jae-woo spoke to the communicator one final time. Veltari fleet, this is your last warning. Leave Earth space immediately, or we will destroy every ship you have. You don't have the firepower, don't we? Jae-woo activated another signal on his communicator. Suddenly, the space around Earth lit up with new energy signatures. Weapons platforms that had been hidden in asteroids and space debris came online. Defense satellites that looked like space junk revealed themselves as military installations. Impossible, the Veltari commander whispered. How long have you been preparing for this? Since the day we detected your first scout probe, Jae-woo said. Did you really think a species that has survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars would be unprepared for alien invasion? Sir! The voice was breaking up now. All ships are reporting critical damage. We have to retreat. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Abandon the attack. The sounds of battle faded as the Veltari fleet fled into space. Jae-woo turned off the communicator and looked at the four aliens. They were staring at him with a mixture of fear and awe. Now do you understand? He asked. Understand what? Hwan whispered. You came to Earth thinking you would find a primitive species that you could conquer with superior technology. Instead, you found a species that has been preparing for war since before you learned to build spaceships. Jae-woo walked over to Hwan. Every human child plays games that teach tactical thinking. Every human sport builds warrior reflexes. Every human story celebrates heroes who defeat superior enemies through cunning and determination. What are you saying? I'm saying that evolution works in different ways. You evolved to build better technology. We evolved to be better warriors. And when technology meets evolution, he gestured toward the sky where the battle had taken place. Evolution wins. Hwan looked at his team. They were exhausted, defeated, and completely demoralized. What happens to us now? You go home, Jae-woo said. You tell your people what you learned here. You warn them that Earth is not a target for conquest. And if we refuse? Jae-woo's expression became very serious. Then you stay here forever. The threat was clear. The four aliens looked at each other and knew they had no choice. We'll need our ship, Hwan said. It's waiting for you at the original landing site. We fixed the systems your jungle adventure. Damaged! As the aliens prepared to leave, Daeho turned back to Jae-woo. How did you do it? One human against 4 trained soldiers with advanced technology? Jae-woo smiled. I had advantages you couldn't understand. What advantages? I was fighting for my home. You were fighting for conquest. I had nothing to lose. You had everything to lose. And most importantly, what? I'm human. We don't give up. Ever. The aliens left Earth that day, carrying with them a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were warriors who had been preparing for war since they first looked up at the stars. And any species that tried to invade Earth would learn what it truly meant to fight against evolution itself. Commander Juan's final report to the Veltari. High Command was simple. Recommend immediate reclassification of humans from primitive target to avoid at all costs.